All right, we're back with our guest, Mike Heiser. We're talking about his book, The Façade. This is a work of fiction, but you may kind of wonder how much of it is actually fiction. It really grabs a hold of you as you're reading through it. Before we went to the break, Mike, I teased Roswell, and the reason I teased it is because there's something in this book that I just absolutely missed and wasn't aware of, and that has to do with I believe it's the 50th anniversary of Roswell and a press conference where some information was disclosed that's like, what did he really say?
Yeah, that was the turning point for me. Again, in 1997, I was listening to the CNN press conference for the 50th anniversary. And again, I had read enough about Roswell to know, the basic framework of the story and what the issues were. And at the CNN conference that was being conducted by a guy named Colonel Haynes from the Air Force, and this was the Air Force's third explanation for Roswell, which alone tells you something. But a reporter at the press conference asked Colonel Haynes, he said, well, Colonel Haynes, the Air Force has reported here that the bodies, the so-called bodies that were found at Roswell, the crash site, were actually Air Force test dummies. But the report of the Air Force itself notes that these test dummies were not used until the early 1950s. So how do you explain that because of the event in 1947? And what I thought the colonel would say is, well, yeah, that's a typo. I misspoke. Thank you. And then here's the real answer. But he didn't. He stuck to the report. He said, yes, that's correct. And the reporter's like, well, how? We're sitting here in 1997. It's the 50th anniversary. How do those two things go together? And the colonel actually said, and I went out and got the transcript from the CNN conference right after I heard it because I couldn't believe it. He said, well, we think that the witnesses to the Roswell event have undergone time compression. And he's like, what's that? And what the colonel meant was, well, we think that these witnesses thought that they were recalling something from 1947, but it was actually something that happened in the early 1950s, which is where you get the crash test dummies, into the picture. And I listened to that and I thought, that answer is so ridiculous. Somebody somewhere wants this myth to live.
Yeah, that's group delusionism is what we're describing, right?
Yeah, I mean, because we're not talking 4 or 5 people. When it comes down to the Roswell event, you're talking about a couple hundred. And the event itself was in newspapers across the country.
Mm-hmm.
Picked it up from the Roswell Daily Record. And it was so absurd to offer this as an explanation that was the only conclusion I could draw. And that really sucked me into the whole thing. Because when I heard that, I thought, I want to know why. Here we have an Air Force colonel, who I imagine, showed up for work that day and got a phone call from a general that said, son, you're going to go out today and serve your country no matter how dumb you sound. Like this is what you're going to say.
Take one for the team.
Take one for the team. Like somebody somewhere wants this myth to live. And I was just sort of fascinated by why. Why would that be? And of course, you brought up Mirage Men. Again, I think in hindsight, this is a convenient and effective, and I'll use the word important, misdirection to people within the military-industrial complex. They had their reasons for doing what they did, and again, looking stupid like this, that were important. But for the sake of the facade, I didn't want to miss that, because that was sort of a watershed moment for me that took me from sort of a casual interest to there's just something here that needs to be thought about, needs to be understood.